I appreciate that very much. We have another committee that's going on right now that I have to be there for. So thank you very much for doing that. Mr. Folk, we had problems throughout the country during this cold spell that we had. In fact, my state of Oklahoma, it was the coldest it's been since 1878, I think so that's something we had not experienced before, but we handled it real well. And we handled it. If you look at our neighbor down there in Texas, they had outages. They had all these problems. We didn't have those problems, and I have to say that it was coal that saved the day. Normally, coal is about 10% of our mix, and we had to use that up to 40%, and that's the reason that we didn't have the problems that some of the other states. I think that speaks to your concern about the fuel diversity and how important that is. Now, I would say if our grids were operating on renewables alone during that storm, what would that have looked like? Would it have been more outages or less?
Well, I don't think the big grid can operate on renewables alone. I think it does need to be backed up, Senator. And I think increasingly the nation is moving away from coal and towards natural gas. But, we have to have better coordination between the power sector and the gas sector because the interdependencies are not getting less, they're getting greater. So we also have some coal, we have some natural gas, and all of those, our plants worked. They were ready to go. So I think it can be done without coal, but you're going to have a dispatchable resource, and I think that's natural gas.
My point is the diversity. That's what saved us in the state of Oklahoma, and then also the statement. And when you said it in your opening remarks, we wrote it down because I like the way you said it. You said for the next 2 decades at least, natural gas and nuclear do not stand in the way of the industry's clean energy transition. They make it possible. That's a great statement. I would like to ask Ms. Snyder, do you agree with that statement?
Yes, I absolutely do. Natural gas is foundational to our energy system, and I think it's going to play a very key role in addressing climate change. Around 1/3 of electricity is generated using natural gas right now in the U.S., and our system is extremely reliable. Looking at a survey of the INGA members, which are the interstate natural gas pipelines, over a 10-year span, they were able to meet their firm contractual commitments 99.79% of the time. So we know how important that reliability is, and we're looking forward to the future to expanding the availability of natural gas, complementing renewables, as well as transporting lower carbon fuels.
That's good. Well, I appreciate that very much. And the one thing that I wanted to get into, and I think there is time now, Ms. Snyder, to address this, and that is the NEPA permitting reform. In the previous administration, of course, there's a lot of criticism of our previous president on their feeling about the reforms. And I've always felt anything that takes 5 years can be done in 2 years. And at that time, they were talking about the Council for Environmental Quality found the average time to complete the environmental impact statement was 4.5 years, which I felt was far too long. Now, the president at that time said we could do it in 2 years. So we made some reforms there, and I'd like to have your opinion. Do you think that the improvements that were made during that time served to our advantage in NEPA reform?
Yes, I do. NEPA is the most litigated environmental statute out there. As you said, it takes some time in order to complete these environmental reviews. These environmental reviews are necessary before our infrastructures in the interstate pipeline industry can move forward, and before FERC will issue a certificate in order for it to operate. But many different federal agencies are involved, and I think that programs such as the One Federal Decision are just common sense to try to get the federal family to work together, cooperate, share information, and work based upon a timeline.
Yeah. Well, And I agree with that, and I think that a lot of people are not aware of the fact that it's not just gas, it's the wind industry also supported those reforms. I think most all suppliers uh, benefited from those reforms. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.